Welcome back to Solentha Stories. Let's fuel your day with some intense passion and non-stop excitement. Grab your gear, we're moving into the story now.
My husband threw divorce papers at me and said, "You have 36 hours to move out. My new girlfriend owns everything here now. You leave with nothing." He said it loud enough for the neighbors to hear, just to shame me. I only smiled, because when she stepped inside that house, she learned a truth that changed everything. 36 hours. That's how long my husband gave me to pack up 7 years of marriage and disappear from what he called his girlfriend's house. I'm Eliza Hartwell, and I was standing on my own front porch on a Thursday afternoon when Grant decided to make a public spectacle of throwing me out. He held divorce papers like they were a trophy, his voice loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear every word. "You leave with nothing, Eliza. Lydia owns everything here now." The neighbors were watching. Mrs. Patterson with her terrier, the Hoffmans mid-grocery unload, 2 kids on skateboards who'd stopped to witness the drama. Grant wanted an audience. He wanted them all to see me humiliated, defeated, broken. Before we continue, I want to thank you for being here to witness this journey of justice. If you believe that truth and documentation matter when facing betrayal, please consider subscribing. It's free and helps us reach more people who need these stories. Now let's see how this unfolds. But here's what Grant didn't know. While he'd been busy planning his grand exit with his 26-year-old personal trainer, I'd been planning something too. While he thought he was playing chess, I'd been studying the entire board. "When exactly did Lydia purchase this property?" I asked, my voice cutting through his performance. I must have missed that transaction. His confidence flickered. Just slightly. Just enough. Because the house he was throwing me out of, the home he claimed his girlfriend owned, it belonged to a trust he didn't know existed. And when Lydia stepped inside expecting to claim her prize, she was about to learn a truth that would destroy everything she'd built. I had 36 hours before she moved in. 36 hours to execute the plan I'd been preparing for 8 weeks. But to understand how I got here, standing on my own porch while my husband publicly discarded me like trash, you need to understand what the past 7 years looked like. You need to understand the life I thought I was building before I discovered it was all constructed on lies. Grant and I met at a networking event 9 years ago. He worked in wealth management, managing investment portfolios for clients who trusted him with their retirement funds and their children's college savings. I was a corporate contracts attorney, the person companies called when they needed someone to find the trapdoors hidden in seemingly straightforward agreements. We bonded over our shared understanding of financial structures and risk assessment. He made me laugh with stories about demanding clients. I impressed him with tales of contract negotiations that saved companies millions. Our wedding was elegant but not extravagant. 150 guests at a country club in Westchester, a honeymoon in Napa Valley, a shared commitment to building something solid and lasting. We bought the Ridgewood house 5 years ago, a colonial with good bones in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. Grant thought we bought it together. I'd actually purchased it through the Hartwell Family Trust using my inheritance from my grandmother's estate, but Grant never paid attention to those details. He assumed joint ownership because that's what married couples do, and I never corrected him because it didn't seem important at the time. My mother Margaret had insisted on the trust structure. She was a forensic accountant who'd spent 40 years tracking money through corporate labyrinths, finding the numbers people desperately wanted to hide. She raised me alone after my father died when I was 12, and she taught me to be thorough in everything, to look for patterns, to trust my instincts when something felt wrong, to always protect myself legally even when it seemed unnecessary. "Eliza," she'd said when I told her about buying the house, "always read what's not written on the page. Put it in the trust. Keep it separate. You never know when you'll need that protection." I thought she was being paranoid. My marriage was solid. Grant was a good husband. We had the kind of life that looked perfect from the outside. Sunday brunches at the country club where Grant networked and I smiled politely, summer barbecues where we grilled expensive cuts of meat for neighbors who discussed property values and school district ratings, annual vacations to Cape Cod where we walked beaches and pretended our marriage was as picturesque as the lighthouse postcards in every gift shop. Our neighborhood was the type where everyone maintained careful facades. Mrs. Patterson walked her terrier past our house every morning at 7:15. Always waving, always commenting on the weather, never acknowledging that her own marriage had quietly collapsed 2 years ago. The Hoffmans hosted block parties where children ran through sprinklers and adults drank wine from plastic cups while discussing local politics, carefully avoiding mention of their son's recent arrest for drug possession. Young couples pushed expensive strollers down tree-lined streets, their lives seemingly mapped out in increments of school years and mortgage payments, none of them admitting that beneath the surface aesthetics, everyone was struggling with something. I thought Grant and I were different. I thought we had something genuine beneath our own carefully maintained surface. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday evening in early September when Grant came home 2 hours late smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He claimed he'd been at a client dinner, but his shirt collar had lipstick on it, a shade of burgundy red I'd never worn. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I did what my mother trained me to do. I watched. I listened. I began reading the spaces between his words. Client dinner ran late, he said, loosening his tie and avoiding eye contact. You know how it gets with these high-maintenance portfolio holders. They want to discuss every market fluctuation over expensive wine. I nodded, smiled, asked if he'd eaten enough. But my mind was already cataloging details. The way he turned away when he took off his jacket, the way he went straight to the bedroom instead of joining me in the living room like he usually did, the way the shower ran for 20 minutes instead of his typical 10. The lipstick stain was gone when he emerged, his collar now pristine. But I'd already photographed it with my phone. Grant's sudden fitness obsession started the next week. He joined an upscale gym in Paramus that cost more per month than most people's car payments. Designer workout clothes appeared in our closet, brands I'd never heard of with price tags I accidentally saw before he removed them. Protein powders lined our kitchen counter in flavors with names like Tropical Paradise Recovery and Midnight Chocolate Performance Blend. He talked constantly about his new personal trainer Lydia, how she was helping him optimize his performance, unlock his potential, realign his energy centers. She's a genius, he said one morning while mixing a green smoothie that smelled like grass clippings and disappointment. She understands the connection between physical wellness and financial success. Most trainers just count reps, but Lydia sees the whole picture. She's helping me develop discipline that translates directly to my portfolio management. I asked what she charged for this transformative wisdom. He waved the question away. It's an investment in myself, Eliza. You of all people should understand the value of professional development. At first, I told myself this was standard midlife crisis territory. Grant was 42, maybe he'd looked in the mirror one morning and seen his father's face staring back. The gym membership, the protein powders, the new clothes. These were classic symptoms of a man trying to recapture something he thought he'd lost. But then came the business trips. Scottsdale in late September. Miami in early October. Burlington, Vermont in mid-October. When I asked about these destinations, Grant had smooth explanations. Scottsdale was a wealth management conference. Miami was a client meeting with a retired executive. Burlington was a potential new client who preferred meeting on his home turf. The explanations were practiced, almost believable. Almost. I pulled up our credit card statements one night while Grant showered after another late gym session. The charges told a different story. The Scottsdale conference included spa services at a luxury resort, couples massage, romantic dinner for 2, upgraded suite. The Miami client meeting featured boutique hotel charges and reservations at restaurants that specialized in intimate candlelit experiences. Burlington showed purchases from lingerie boutiques and wine bars. My stomach dropped, but my mind stayed sharp. This was what my mother had trained me for. The moment when emotions wanted to override logic, when hurt threatened to cloud judgment. I forced myself to breathe slowly, to think clearly, to document everything. I could have confronted him right then. Could have walked into that bathroom and thrown the credit card statements at him while he stood wrapped in a towel, vulnerable and caught. Could have demanded explanations, apologies, the truth. But my mother's voice echoed in my head. Never show your hand until you know the full game. So I started my own investigation. I accessed Grant's phone location through our family plan, a feature he'd forgotten we'd activated years ago. His patterns emerged quickly. The Paramus gym 5 days a week, yes, but also regular stops at an address in Hoboken, weekend trips to locations that didn't match any gym or office, midday departures to restaurants and hotels scattered across northern New Jersey. I reviewed 6 months of bank statements, highlighting every suspicious transaction. Grant had been withdrawing cash regularly, $500 here, $1,000 there, always in amounts calculated to stay beneath my notice threshold. Together they added up to nearly $20,000. Then I found the payments to LB Consulting, $15,000 over 4 months, listed as business advisory services. But when I searched for LB Consulting, I found nothing. No website, no business registration, no tax identification number. The company didn't exist. That's when I knew this wasn't just an affair. This was something more calculated, more organized, more dangerous. My mother came to visit that weekend. We sat in my kitchen drinking coffee while Grant was at the gym, and I told her everything. She listened without interruption, her forensic accountant's mind processing patterns and possibilities. Eliza, men like Grant don't just have affairs. They have patterns. If he's giving money to this woman, he's not the only one. Together we found Lydia Brennan's Instagram. Yoga poses on pristine beaches, green smoothies in aesthetically perfect glasses, inspirational quotes superimposed over sunrise photos. Her bio claimed she was a certified personal trainer and wellness coach building her business from the ground up. But the photos told a different story. Designer workout gear that cost hundreds per outfit. Luxury vacations to Bali, Tulum, the Maldives. A white Range Rover. Meals at restaurants where entrees started at $60. This isn't a struggling entrepreneur, my mother said quietly. This is someone with multiple income streams. Dig deeper. Find out who else is paying her bills. I spent the next 2 weeks building a complete profile of Lydia Brennan. I traced her digital footprint across platforms, followed her location tags, analyzed her posting patterns, cross-referenced her testimonials with public records. What I discovered made everything clear. Grant wasn't having an affair. He was being conned. And so were at least 4 other people whose names appeared on Lydia's website, praising her transformative training and life-changing guidance. The game was bigger than I'd imagined. And now, standing on my porch with 36 hours until Lydia moved into my house, I was ready to play it. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom with deliberate slowness, letting Grant stew on the porch with his audience of shocked neighbors. My briefcase felt heavier than usual. Not from the contract documents inside, but from the weight of what I was about to set in motion. The bedroom looked exactly as it had that morning when I'd left for work. Our king-sized bed with the duvet Grant never learned to straighten properly. The dresser with his cologne bottles arranged like trophies. The closet where his designer workout clothes now outnumbered his business suits 3 to 1. Everything appeared normal, comfortable, unchanged. But nothing was normal anymore. I set my briefcase on the bed and pulled out my laptop. Through the window I could see Grant still standing on the front porch, his phone pressed to his ear. Probably calling Lydia to tell her about his triumphant eviction performance. Probably expecting praise for how decisively he'd handled his soon-to-be ex-wife. The thought made my jaw tighten. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Is it happening today? I typed back, he just threw divorce papers at me on the front porch. Told the whole neighborhood I have 36 hours to leave Lydia's house. 3 dots appeared immediately, then, perfect. Execute the plan. I'm proud of you. I opened my laptop and pulled up the email I drafted 3 days ago. The subject line read, regarding Lydia Brennan's private training services. 4 email addresses sat in the recipient field. Rebecca Winters, Sarah Blackwood, Jennifer Ashford, and Marcus Chen. For people whose lives were about to intersect with mine in ways none of us could have predicted 2 months ago. The attachments were ready. Financial records showing Lydia's payment patterns from multiple sources, screenshots of her text conversations with each person that I'd obtained through less than conventional means, location data proving she was rotating between all 5 targets on a fixed schedule, and a timeline document that laid out her entire operation in color-coded detail. I reread the email body one final time. Dear Ms. Winters, Ms. Blackwood, Ms. Ashford, and Mr. Chin, I believe we share a common interest, and I think it's time we had a conversation about the specialized personal training program that has been enriching our lives and emptying our bank accounts. Please see the attached documentation. I suggest we speak this evening. Best regards, Eliza Hartwell. Professional. Direct. Impossible to ignore. I checked the time. 4:32 p.m. I'd planned to send this at 4:47 p.m., exactly the moment when most professionals were wrapping up their workday but hadn't yet left the office. Maximum chance of immediate reading, minimum chance of it getting lost in an evening email flood. Downstairs I heard the front door open and close. Grant's footsteps moved through the house. Heavy, agitated, purposeful. He was looking for me. I closed my laptop and waited. His footsteps climbed the stairs, paused outside our bedroom door, then continued down the hallway to the guest room. I heard drawers opening, the sound of something being moved. What was he doing? I stood and walked to the hallway. The guest room door was open and Grant was pulling suitcases down from the closet shelf. My suitcases, the matching set his parents had given us as a wedding gift. "I'm helping you get started," he said without looking at me. "You said you had questions about the property ownership, but that doesn't change the fact that you need to be out by Saturday afternoon. Lydia's moving truck is coming at 2 o'clock. The audacity of it, helping me pack to leave my own house." I leaned against the door frame and watched him pile suitcases in the hallway. "That's thoughtful of you, Grant. Though I'm curious about something." He finally looked at me, his expression wary. "What?" "These business consulting fees you've been paying to LB Consulting. $15,000 over 4 months. Can you explain what services you received for that investment?" His face went carefully blank, the expression he used with difficult clients when he was buying time to formulate an answer. "That's business development. Portfolio expansion strategies. It's complicated. I'm a contracts attorney, Grant. I understand complicated. What I don't understand is why a business consulting firm has no website, no business registration, no tax identification number, and no professional presence anywhere online. Lydia operates under a different business model," he said, his voice taking on a defensive edge. "Not everyone needs a traditional corporate structure to provide value." "Lydia." I let the name hang in the air between us. "So LB Consulting is Lydia Brennan. Your personal trainer is also your business consultant." "She's more than a personal trainer." Grant's voice rose slightly. "She's a wellness coach, a life strategist, a con artist." The words landed like a slap. Grant's face flushed red, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. "You're jealous," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "You can't stand that I've found someone who actually supports my growth, who understands my potential, who's also taking money from Rebecca Winters, Sarah Blackwood, Jennifer Ashford, and Marcus Chin using the exact same playbook she used on you." Grant froze. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "What are you talking about?" I checked my watch. 4:46 p.m. Perfect timing. "I'm talking about the fact that your girlfriend is running a rotation system across northern New Jersey. Monday mornings with Rebecca, who thinks she's helping Lydia escape an abusive ex-boyfriend. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons with Sarah, who believes she's supporting Lydia through a family medical crisis. Wednesday evenings with Jennifer, who's convinced she's funding Lydia's professional certifications. Friday lunches with Marcus, who thinks he's investing in her startup business. And weekends with you, who believes he's her financial knight in shining armor." The color had completely drained from Grant's face. He looked like someone had just explained that gravity was optional and he'd been flying all along without realizing it. "That's not true," he whispered. "You're making this up too." "To what, Grant?" "To save a marriage you just publicly destroyed on our front porch." I pulled out my phone and opened Lydia's Instagram, turning the screen so he could see her carefully curated feed. "Look at the location tags. Look at the timestamps. Cross-reference them with your own calendar and you'll see the pattern." His hand trembled as he took my phone, scrolling through the posts. I watched his face change as he processed what he was seeing. The Monday morning yoga posts from Montclair, the Tuesday afternoon boutique visits in Short Hills, the Wednesday evening wellness dinners in Summit, the Friday restaurant photos from Tenafly. "She told me those were client sessions," he said weakly. "Training appointments with other people." "She told you the truth. She just didn't specify what kind of training she was providing." I took my phone back and opened the email app. "Which is why I think it's time we all had a conversation about Lydia's specialized services." Grant looked at me like he was seeing a stranger. "What did you do?" "What any good attorney does when she discovers fraud. I documented everything, built an airtight case and contacted the other victims." I showed him the email draft, letting him read the subject line and recipient names. "In approximately 45 seconds, I'm going to send this email to 4 people who are going to be very interested in comparing notes about their experiences with Lydia Brennan." "Eliza, wait." "Wait." I looked at him with something between pity and contempt. You just threw divorce papers at me on our front porch and told me I have 36 hours to leave the house my girlfriend supposedly owns. You humiliated me in front of our entire neighborhood. You expected me to collapse in tears and beg you to reconsider. But here's what you forgot, Grant. I'm not some suburban housewife whose identity is wrapped up in her marriage. I'm a contracts attorney who specializes in finding the traps hidden in seemingly straightforward agreements. And your girlfriend? She's the most poorly structured scam I've ever seen. I hit send at exactly 4:47 p.m. The email disappeared from my outbox, launched into the digital void, heading toward 4 people whose lives were about to change in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Grant stared at my phone like it was a weapon I just fired. What have you done? I've given 4 people the information they need to make informed decisions about their relationships with Lydia. What they do with that information is up to them. I walked past him toward the bedroom. Now if you'll excuse me, I have some calls to prepare for. I expect Rebecca Winters will reach out first. She's an attorney, she'll recognize the legal implications immediately. Sarah will probably call second, once she's had time to review the financial documentation. Jennifer and Marcus might take a bit longer to process. Eliza. Grant's voice cracked. If what you're saying is true. It is. Then she's been. He couldn't finish the sentence. I paused in the bedroom doorway and looked back at him standing in the hallway surrounded by my suitcases, his face the color of old newspaper, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume he'd borrowed for a role he didn't understand. You've been conned, Grant. Systematically, expertly, and completely. And in about 15 minutes, when your phone starts ringing with calls from 4 very angry people who've just discovered they were conned by the same woman, you're going to realize exactly how thoroughly your perfect plan has fallen apart. I closed the bedroom door, sat down at my desk, and opened my laptop. My phone was already starting to buzz with incoming notifications. The first call came at 5:03 p.m. Rebecca Winters. Right on schedule. I let it ring twice before answering. Ms. Winters. Thank you for calling so quickly. Her voice was controlled, but I could hear the fury underneath. Mrs. Hartwell. I received your email. These are serious allegations you're making. I'm a contracts attorney, Ms. Winters. I don't make allegations. I present evidence. Through the bedroom door I could hear Grant's phone ringing. Then ringing again. Then again. The next 36 hours were going to be very interesting. Rebecca Winters spoke with the precision of someone who'd spent years in courtrooms. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm a divorce attorney. I've seen every manipulation tactic in the book. What makes you certain this isn't just a misunderstanding or coincidence? I opened the folder on my laptop labeled LB Consulting Research. 8 weeks of investigation that told a story Grant couldn't even imagine. Ms. Winters, I'm going to share my screen with you. What you're about to see is documentation I've been compiling since early September. Through the bedroom door I could hear Grant's phone ringing constantly now. His voice carried up the stairs, confused and defensive as he tried to answer multiple calls. I pulled up the first document, Lydia's website testimonials page. 5 glowing reviews from satisfied clients. Rebecca Winters, divorce attorney. Sarah Blackwood, boutique owner. Jennifer Ashford, pharmaceutical executive. Marcus Chin, hedge fund manager. And Grant Hartwell, wealth management advisor. Rebecca's silence on the other end was heavy. Then, I wrote that testimonial 6 months ago. She asked me to share my transformation story. I thought I was helping her build credibility. You were helping her build a client list, I said. Look at the pattern. All 5 of you are married professionals with significant assets working in finance or high-level business. That's not coincidence, that's target selection. I heard her breathing change faster now. Send me everything you have. I want to see all of it. I'm sending it now, but I need you to understand something first. This investigation took me 2 months. I tracked her location patterns, cross-referenced credit card charges, accessed public records, analyzed social media activity. What I found is a systematic operation running across northern New Jersey with mathematical precision. My second call came through while I was still talking to Rebecca. Sarah Blackwood. I put Rebecca on hold and answered. Is this some kind of joke? Sarah's voice shook with barely controlled rage. Because if you're trying to blackmail me or... Miss Blackwood, I'm not trying to blackmail anyone. I'm trying to show you that you're not alone in this situation. Can you tell me how much you've paid to LB Consulting over the past 7 months? Boss. That's private business information. Approximately $8,000. Payments described as business development consulting, correct. I pulled up Sarah's financial records, the ones I'd obtained through business registry public filings. Except LB Consulting isn't registered as a legitimate business entity. It's a shell name Lydia uses to collect payments that look professional on credit card statements. How do you know about my payments? Sarah's voice had shifted from angry to wary. Because I'm married to someone who's been paying the same non-existent company. And so have 3 other people. We're all funding different pieces of the same lifestyle. I spent the next 40 minutes walking Sarah and Rebecca through the evidence I'd compiled. The location tracking that showed Lydia's rotation schedule. Monday mornings in Montclair for Rebecca, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons in Short Hills for Sarah, Wednesday evenings in Summit for Jennifer, Friday lunches in Tenafly for Marcus, weekends in Ridgewood for Grant. She posts on Instagram from each location, I explained, pulling up screenshots. Monday morning yoga poses geotagged near Montclair with captions about starting the week with intention. The timestamps match perfectly with Rebecca's credit card charges. I pulled those from public court records in your divorce cases, Ms. Winters. Tuesday and Thursday posts from Short Hills showing her outside boutiques, talking about supporting local businesses. Sarah, your business credit card shows regular LB Consulting payments on those exact dates. Sarah's voice came through tight with realization. She told me those were other client training sessions. She said she had a full schedule to build her business. She wasn't lying, I said. She just didn't specify what kind of business she was running. My phone buzzed with an incoming call from Jennifer Ashford. I added her to the conference line. Jennifer's voice was clinical, controlled. The tone of someone used to managing pharmaceutical crises. Mrs. Hartwell, I've reviewed the documentation you sent. These are serious allegations that require serious evidence. What's your source for the financial information? Public records, credit card statements obtained through legal channels, business registry filings, and location data from social media posts cross-referenced with known addresses. I pulled up the spreadsheet my mother had helped me create. I'm a corporate contracts attorney, Dr. Ashford. I know how to build a case that holds up under scrutiny. You mentioned wellness retreat expenses that I supposedly covered. How did you access that information? Through your pharmaceutical company's public financial disclosures. Professional development reimbursements are listed in quarterly reports. The dates match perfectly with Lydia's Instagram posts from Miami and Scottsdale, trips she claimed were certification programs but were actually luxury vacations. I heard Jennifer's sharp intake of breath. I approved those reimbursements because she showed me certification program brochures. She needed advanced training in pharmaceutical-grade nutrition planning. Did you verify those programs existed? Silence. That's what I thought, I said softly. She's very good at showing just enough documentation to make the lie believable. Marcus Chin joined the call at 5:47 p.m., his hedge fund manager's voice carrying the kind of controlled tension that comes from managing billions in volatile markets. Someone better explain why I'm on a conference call with 4 strangers discussing my personal training sessions. Mr. Chin, we're not strangers, Rebecca said, her attorney's voice cutting through. We're all marks in the same con. And Mrs. Hartwell has documentation that proves it. I walked Marcus through the same evidence, watching the pieces click together for him the way they had for the others. The startup investment he'd made in Lydia's wellness business. Money that went straight into high-yield savings accounts I'd traced through public financial disclosures. The Friday lunch dates he thought were private mentorship sessions, actually scheduled appointments in a rotation system. She told me I was the only person who understood her vision, Marcus said quietly. She said everyone else just saw her as a trainer, but I saw her as an entrepreneur. She told Grant he was the only person who understood her spiritual journey, I replied. She told Rebecca that she'd never felt safer with anyone. She told Sarah they were going to build an empire together. She told Jennifer that their connection was transforming her understanding of wellness. She customized the con for each target. By 6:15 p.m., I had all 4 of them on the line, processing the reality that they'd been systematically deceived by the same woman. How did you figure this out? Rebecca asked. Most people don't have the resources or skills to conduct this kind of investigation. My mother is a forensic accountant, I said. She taught me to follow money trails and look for patterns. When I found the LB consulting payments and couldn't locate any legitimate business registration, I knew something was wrong. The testimonials on Lydia's website gave me the other names. Everything else was just methodical research. Research, Sarah repeated. You make it sound simple. It wasn't simple. It took 8 weeks of tracking location data, analyzing social media patterns, accessing public records and cross-referencing financial information. But once I saw the pattern, it was impossible to unsee. My mother had helped with the deepest digging, tracking down Lydia's real address in Bloomfield, not the Hoboken apartment Rebecca was paying rent on. That Hoboken apartment was Lydia's actual living space, funded by one Mark while she claimed it was her private training studio. The white Range Rover was registered in Lydia's name but insured through Sarah's business. The wellness retreats were real trips, just not for the certification programs she'd claimed. She's built an entire lifestyle on our money, Jennifer said, her clinical tone cracking slightly. And we've been helping her do it. The most damaging evidence was sitting in a separate folder on my desktop. Screenshots of text conversations Lydia had saved to a backup cloud account. I'd found them through a reverse lookup service after discovering she'd used the same email address across multiple accounts under slight name variations. There's something else you need to see, I said carefully. Lydia kept records of your conversations with her. Screenshots, probably as insurance or leverage. What kind of conversations? Marcus asked, his voice sharp. I pulled up the files. Conversations where Grant discusses divorcing me and giving her everything. Messages where you talk about leaving your wife once your kids graduate, Mr. Chin. Texts from Dr. Ashford about creating a pharmaceutical crisis at work to justify spending more time with Lydia. Plans from Ms. Blackwood about running a wellness empire together. And critically, detailed discussions with Ms. Winters about how to structure divorce proceedings to maximize asset extraction. The silence on the line was absolute. She wasn't just conning us, Rebecca said finally. She was collecting ammunition. Exactly. She has enough material to destroy 5 marriages, 5 careers, 5 reputations. She's been building leverage the entire time. Through the bedroom door I heard Grant's footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, defeated. His phone had finally stopped ringing. So what do we do now? Sarah asked. I looked at the clock. 6:33 p.m. 30 hours and 27 minutes until Lydia's moving truck arrived at my house. Now, I said, we coordinate. Coordinate how? Sarah asked, her voice still carrying the shock of discovering she'd been manipulated for 7 months. I pulled up a blank document on my screen, fingers already moving across the keyboard. We need to approach this systematically. Each of you has different expertise, different resources, different angles of attack. If we work together, we can build a case that Lydia can't escape from. Rebecca's attorney mind was already shifting gears. What are you proposing exactly? A coordinated response. Legal action, financial investigation, regulatory complaints, social media documentation. Everything happening simultaneously so she can't plug one leak while another keeps flowing. Through my bedroom door, I heard Grant's footsteps descending the stairs. He was leaving, probably to call Lydia and warn her that something had gone wrong. Let him. By the time she understood what was happening, it would be too late to stop it. I'm listening, Marcus said. What do you need from each of us? I opened a new group chat on my phone, a secure messaging app my office used for sensitive client communications. First, we need a secure channel. I'm creating a group chat now. Everyone check your phones. 4 notification sounds pinged through the conference line as I added them one by one. Rebecca, you're a divorce attorney. You understand fraud, you know how to file complaints with the right authorities, you can build the civil case framework. Can you handle the legal structure? Absolutely. I've already started mentally cataloging the charges. Fraud across multiple counties, identity theft through false business entities, tax evasion. If she's been collecting this much unreported income, the IRS is going to be very interested. Good. Sarah, you run multiple businesses. You understand social media, branding, online presence. Can you document everything on Lydia's platforms before she has a chance to delete it? Sarah's voice came through sharper now, focused. I can do better than that. I have software that captures entire websites in real time. Every testimonial, every post, every claim she's made. I can preserve it all with timestamps and metadata. She won't be able to claim anything was doctored. Perfect. Jennifer, you work in pharmaceuticals. You mentioned she sold you supplements claiming they were pharmaceutical grade. Can you coordinate with regulatory bodies about unlicensed sales? Jennifer's clinical tone returned. The FDA has a division specifically for this. If she's been selling products claiming medical benefits without proper licensing, that's federal jurisdiction. I can make the right calls tomorrow morning. Marcus, you manage investment portfolios. You understand money trails, banking systems, financial structures. Can you follow her accounts and trace where all this money has been going? Marcus's response was immediate. I have contacts at 3 major banks and 2 financial investigation firms. If she's running money through shell accounts, we'll find them. Money always leaves traces. Then we have our team. I pulled up a fresh spreadsheet, creating columns for each person's responsibilities. We move fast, we stay coordinated, and we don't give her time to cover her tracks. Rebecca's voice cut through with the precision of someone who'd managed hundreds of legal cases. We need to establish rules of engagement. Complete transparency. Anything we discover gets shared immediately with the group. No solo moves that might compromise someone else's angle. And we document everything with the assumption it might end up in court. Agreed, I said, typing notes into the group chat. Sarah, start with her Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, anything with a digital footprint. Capture everything tonight. Already on it. I'm screen recording her entire Instagram feed as we speak. Jennifer, draft an outline of what you know about her supplement sales. Product names, claims she made, prices she charged, any documentation she provided about certifications or licensing. I have emails going back 4 months. I'll compile them into a single file with summaries. Marcus, pull together everything you have on the money you invested in her supposed startup. Bank transfers, wire receipts, any business plans or financial projections she showed you. I'll have it ready within an hour. Rebecca, start drafting the legal framework. What agencies need to be contacted, what forms need to be filed, what timeline we're looking at for official complaints. On it. Though I should warn you, once we file official complaints, this becomes public record. Everyone's involvement will be documented. I heard the weight of that statement settle over the call. These were successful professionals with reputations to protect, careers that could be damaged by association with a fraud scandal. I understand that's a risk, I said carefully. But consider the alternative. If we don't stop her, she continues this operation. She finds new targets. More people lose money, more families get destroyed. We have the power to end this, but only if we're willing to accept some short-term embarrassment for long-term justice. Marcus spoke first. I'm in. My marriage is already damaged. My wife is going to find out eventually. Better she hears it from me while we're taking action than discovers it later when more harm has been done. Sarah followed. My business can weather this. I'd rather be known as someone who caught a con artist than someone who got played and did nothing about it. Jennifer's voice was steady. The pharmaceutical industry has strict ethics standards. Coming forward about this demonstrates integrity, not weakness. I'm prepared to accept the consequences. Rebecca's response carried the weight of someone who'd seen countless cases. As an attorney, I should have known better. But that's exactly why I need to be part of stopping this. If I can be fooled, anyone can. This isn't about protecting my ego, it's about preventing future victims. My bedroom door opened. Grant stood in the doorway, his face pale, his expensive suit rumpled. He looked like someone who'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. Eliza, we need to talk, he said quietly. I held up one finger, signaling him to wait. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to pause for a moment. Keep working on your respective tasks. I'll check the group chat in 30 minutes with updates. Understood, Rebecca said. We'll coordinate through the chat. I ended the conference call and looked at Grant. He walked into the room and sat on the edge of our bed, his hands clasped between his knees. I called Lydia, he said. His voice was hollow, defeated. She's not answering. I've left 6 messages. I texted her. Nothing. She knows something's wrong, I said, turning my chair to face him. She's probably trying to figure out how much damage has been done and what her exit strategy looks like. Grant looked up at me, and for the first time since this started, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Is it all true? Everything you told those people? The other clients, the rotation schedule, the fake business entity. Every word. I have 8 weeks of documentation to prove it. He put his head in his hands. I thought she loved me. I thought we were building a future together. I felt something twist in my chest. Not sympathy exactly, but a recognition of the pain that comes from discovering you've been systematically deceived. I'd felt it myself when I first confirmed Grant's affair. The difference was that I'd channeled that pain into investigation instead of collapse. She didn't love you, Grant. She was working you. The same way she worked Rebecca, Sarah, Jennifer, and Marcus. You were a target selected for specific characteristics. Married, financially comfortable, professionally successful, emotionally vulnerable. How was I emotionally vulnerable? His voice rose defensively. You're 42 years old, working in an industry where youth and vitality signal success. Your clients are getting younger while you're getting older. You've been worried about relevance, about staying competitive, about proving you still have what it takes. Lydia saw that vulnerability and exploited it. Grant's phone buzzed. He grabbed it desperately, but his face fell when he checked the screen. Just my managing partner. Wants to schedule a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss client concerns. Your clients are already hearing about this? Word travels fast in our industry. One of Rebecca's clients is also one of my clients. He called my managing partner asking if it was true that I was involved in some kind of fraud scheme. My phone buzzed with notifications from the group chat. Sarah had already captured Lydia's entire social media presence and uploaded it to a secure cloud folder. Jennifer had drafted a preliminary complaint to the FDA about unlicensed pharmaceutical sales. Marcus had traced 3 bank accounts linked to Lydia's name variations. Rebecca had outlined complaints for the State Attorney General's office and the Consumer Fraud Division. We'd been coordinating for less than an hour and already had enough documentation to bury Lydia's operation. What happens now? Grant asked quietly. I looked at him sitting on our bed, his perfect life crumbling around him, his girlfriend revealed as a con artist, his career hanging by a thread. Part of me felt vindicated. Part of me felt sad. Mostly I felt tired. Now we finish what we started. Rebecca files complaints tomorrow morning. Jennifer contacts the FDA. Sarah preserves all the digital evidence. Marcus traces every dollar. And I coordinate everything to make sure Lydia faces consequences for what she's done. And me? His voice cracked. What happens to me? That depends on you, Grant. You can cooperate with our investigation, provide whatever information you have, and possibly mitigate some of the damage to your reputation. Or you can continue trying to protect Lydia and go down with her ship. Your choice. He stared at me for a long moment. You really planned all of this. I documented a crime. I contacted the other victims. I coordinated a response. That's not planning revenge, that's pursuing justice. My phone buzzed again. Rebecca, State Attorney General's office opens at 8 a.m. I'll be there when the doors unlock. We're doing this. Grant stood up slowly, his movements heavy with defeat. I never meant to hurt you, Eliza. But you did. You humiliated me on our front porch. You tried to throw me out of my own house. You planned to give everything to a woman who was using you for money. I turned back to my laptop. The difference between us is that when I got hurt, I did something about it. He walked to the door, paused, looked back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Save your apologies for when you're explaining this to your clients. He left, closing the door behind him. I returned to my laptop and opened the group chat. Everyone's still here? I typed. For immediate responses, yes. Here. Ready. Confirmed. Then let's finish building this case. We have 29 hours until Lydia's moving truck arrives at my house. I want to make sure when she gets here, she's greeted by something very different from what she expected. The group chat exploded with activity over the next 3 hours. At 7:15 p.m., Sarah sent a screenshot with a message that made my chest tighten. Just confirmed 2 additional victims in Bergen County. Found them through mutual connections on Lydia's Facebook. Same pattern. Married professionals, significant assets paying for private wellness coaching. Reaching out to them now. 7 victims. Not 5. 7. Jennifer's message came at 7:22 p.m. Spoke with a contact at the FDA. Her supplement operation is completely unlicensed. She's been selling products with pharmaceutical claims, weight loss, hormone regulation, immune system enhancement, without any certification. That's federal jurisdiction. They're opening a file. Marcus at 7:30 p.m. Traced funds through 3 shell companies registered in Delaware. She's been moving money systematically to avoid detection. This isn't amateur hour. Someone taught her how to structure this. Possibly a previous victim who worked in finance. I'm digging deeper. Rebecca at 7:35 p.m. Filing preliminary complaints with State Attorney General tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Also contacted the IRS Fraud Division. With 7 victims and unreported income exceeding $200,000 over 3 years, this is serious tax evasion. $200,000. I stared at that number trying to process the scale of what Lydia had built. This wasn't just a personal trainer having affairs with clients. This was an organized criminal operation running across multiple counties, possibly multiple states. I stood and walked to the bedroom window looking down at our quiet street. The Hoffman's house was dark except for the flicker of a television in their living room. Mrs. Patterson's porch light cast long shadows across her front yard. Everything looked normal, peaceful, unchanged. But inside this house, inside this room, I was coordinating the dismantling of someone's entire life. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "How's it going?" I typed back, 7 victims now. Federal charges likely. Everything converging faster than I expected. Her response was immediate. "You're doing the right thing. Stay focused." I heard the front door open downstairs. Grant coming back inside after another unsuccessful attempt to reach Lydia by phone. His footsteps moved through the house. Kitchen, living room, his home office. Searching for something or maybe just avoiding coming back upstairs to face me. At 7:45 p.m., Sarah sent another update. One of the new victims, Helen Torres, pharmaceutical rep from Ridgefield, says Lydia told her she was planning to settle down with a wealthy advisor who was divorcing his wife. Helen gave her $20,000 as an investment in their future business together. That wealthy advisor is Grant. My hands clenched around my phone. $20,000. From someone who thought she was investing in a partnership with my husband. I forwarded the message to Grant's phone with a simple note. "You should see this." 3 floors below I heard his phone chime. Then silence. Then a sound that might have been a groan or a sob. I couldn't tell which. Rebecca sent a voice message at 7:48 p.m. "Eliza, I need to warn you about something. Once we file these complaints tomorrow, things are going to move fast. Lydia will likely be contacted by authorities within 48 hours. She's going to know who initiated this investigation. You need to be prepared for her response. People like this don't go down quietly." I played the message twice, letting Rebecca's warning settle over me. He was right. Lydia had spent 3 years building this operation, collecting leverage, maintaining control. When she realized it was all collapsing, she would fight back with everything she had. At 7:50 p.m., headlights swept across my bedroom wall. I walked to the window and looked down to see Lydia's white Range Rover pulling into our driveway with deliberate confidence. She parked behind Grant's Mercedes, the vehicle's gleaming paint catching the streetlights. My breath caught in my chest. She was here. Here. 24 hours early. The driver's door opened and Lydia stepped out, wearing designer athleisure that probably cost $600. Black leggings with mesh panels, a matching sports bra under a cropped jacket, pristine white sneakers. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a high ponytail that swung as she moved. She looked like she'd stepped out of a luxury fitness magazine, all lean muscle and confident grace. She pulled an expensive leather duffel bag from the passenger seat, then walked to the back of the Range Rover and opened the hatch. Inside were boxes, actual moving boxes labeled with black marker. Kitchen, bedroom, bathroom. She'd already packed. She'd already labeled everything. She was moving in a full day early, probably to establish possession before I could react. I grabbed my phone and texted the group. "Our guest of honor has arrived. 24 hours early. She's unloading moving boxes. Are you ready for the reveal?" For responses came within seconds. "Rebecca, ready. Recording this on my phone from my office. Time-stamped documentation. Sarah, I'm screen recording everything. Got my camera set up. This is going to be incredible. Jennifer, document everything. Every word, every reaction. Marcus, about time. Let's end this. From downstairs, Lydia's voice rang out with practiced cheerfulness. Grant, honey. I'm here. I know I'm early, but I couldn't wait another day. Should I start bringing my things in, or do you want to help me carry the boxes? I heard Grant's footsteps moving quickly toward the front door. His voice was strained, uncertain. Lydia, wait, we need to talk first. Talk about what? Her voice had that breathy quality she used when she wanted to sound vulnerable and appealing. About our future? About finally being together? Grant, I've been so excited. I've already started planning how to redecorate. I think we should paint the living room a softer color, maybe add some plants, create a wellness space. Lydia, something's happened. Something with. I appeared at the top of the stairs, my phone in hand, my expression carefully neutral. Something with me, I said, my voice carrying down to the foyer with perfect clarity. Something with the email I sent to Rebecca Winters, Sarah Blackwood, Jennifer Ashford, and Marcus Chun about 3 hours ago. Lydia looked up at me, her expression flickering between confusion and calculation. She set down the duffel bag slowly, her body language shifting from eager to wary. Well, I continued, descending the stairs with deliberate slowness. Lydia Brennan. Or should I call you by one of your other professional names? Though I suppose at this point, we should stick with your legal name since that's what will be on all the official documents. The effect was immediate and deeply satisfying. Lydia's confident smile froze, her face going through a rapid series of micro-expressions. Surprise, concern, calculation, fear. Grant turned toward me with a look that said he was rapidly rethinking every decision he'd made in the past 6 months. Eliza, I thought you'd be packing, Grant managed to say, though his voice had lost all its earlier conviction. I reached the bottom of the stairs and pulled out my phone, opening my email app and holding it so they could both see the screen clearly. Oh, I've been very busy tonight, just not with packing. In fact, I've been on a fascinating conference call coordinating with some people who are extremely interested in meeting you, Lydia. Lydia's hand moved to her throat, an unconscious gesture of someone feeling exposed. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Rebecca Winters doesn't ring a bell? The divorce attorney who's been paying rent on your Hoboken apartment for 9 months. I scrolled through my phone. Or Sarah Blackwood, who's been covering the lease on that beautiful Range Rover you just parked in my driveway. Or Jennifer Ashford, who funded your luxury wellness retreats to Miami and Scottsdale. Or Marcus Chun, who invested $25,000 in your startup business that doesn't actually exist. Grant made a sound like he'd been punched. Lydia's face had gone completely pale, her eyes darting between me and the front door like she was calculating escape routes. You're confused, Lydia stammered, but her practiced composure was cracking like ice under pressure. I took another step toward her, my voice dropping to something quiet and dangerous. I'm not confused. I'm a contracts attorney who's spent 8 weeks documenting your entire operation. I know about the rotation schedule. Mondays with Rebecca, Tuesdays and Thursdays with Sarah, Wednesdays with Jennifer, Fridays with Marcus, weekends with Grant. I know about the fake business entity you used to collect payments. I know about the text messages you saved as leverage. I know about Helen Torres and the $20,000 she gave you as an investment in her future with my husband. Lydia's hand dropped from Grant's shoulder like she'd been burned. She took a step backward, her designer sneakers squeaking slightly on our hardwood floor. Grant, she's lying, Lydia said, but her voice had lost its breathy appeal. She's trying to destroy us because she's jealous. Because she knows we have something real. My phone rang, the sound cutting through the tension like a knife. I answered it on speaker because if I was going to destroy someone's carefully constructed empire, I might as well do it with theatrical precision. Eliza, it's Rebecca Winters. I'm here with the others. I held the phone between us so Grant and Lydia could both hear clearly. Hello, Rebecca. Perfect timing. Lydia just arrived at my house. 24 hours early. She's already unloading moving boxes. Rebecca's voice came through crisp and professional. How interesting. Lydia, if you can hear me, I want you to know that I've just finished filing preliminary complaints with the State Attorney General's office, the Consumer Fraud Division and the IRS. I thought you might want to know what's coming. Lydia's face progressed from pale to gray to a sickly green color. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. Sarah's voice joined the call. This is Sarah Blackwood. I've documented your entire social media presence. Every testimonial, every claim, every fabricated story. It's all preserved with timestamps and metadata. You can delete your accounts now, but it won't matter. We have everything. Jennifer's clinical tone cut through next. Dr. Jennifer Ashford. I've contacted the FDA about your unlicensed supplement operation. They're very interested in products claiming hormone regulation and immune system enhancement without proper certification. That's federal jurisdiction. Marcus's voice was last, cold and precise. Marcus Chin. I've traced your money through 3 shell companies registered in Delaware. The IRS is going to be fascinated by $200,000 in unreported income over 3 years. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the vintage clock in the hallway ticking away the seconds. Lydia grabbed her duffel bag with shaking hands, backing toward the door. I smiled, watching her world collapse in real time. Leaving so soon? I asked. But you just got here. Lydia's hand tightened on her duffel bag. For a moment I thought she might actually run, just bolt out the door and disappear into the night. But instead she straightened her shoulders and tried one more time to salvage the situation. This is all a misunderstanding, she said, her voice losing that breathy quality and becoming harder, more calculating. Eliza, I don't know what Grant told you about our relationship, but you're clearly confused about. Confused. I stepped closer, my phone still in my hand with the property records clearly visible on the screen. Let me clear up any confusion. Rebecca has been paying $9,000 over 9 months for what you told her was rent on your private training studio. That studio is actually your Hoboken apartment, the one you live in. She thought she was helping you maintain a professional space. She was actually paying your rent. Lydia's jaw clenched. That's not. Sarah has been covering a $450 monthly lease on the Range Rover you drove here tonight. For 7 months. That's $3,150. You told her it was a joint business investment, that you'd be using the vehicle to transport equipment and travel to client locations for your expanding wellness empire. I could see the calculation happening behind Lydia's eyes. She was trying to figure out how much I actually knew, whether she could still talk her way out of this. Jennifer funded 6 trips over 8 months. Miami, Scottsdale, Sedona, Tulum, Santa Fe and Costa Rica. Total cost, approximately $18,000. You told her they were advanced certification programs in pharmaceutical nutrition. They were luxury vacations. Grant had gone completely silent, his face the color of old newspaper. He stood frozen in the middle of our foyer like someone who'd just watched their entire understanding of reality collapse. Marcus invested $25,000 in your startup wellness business. You showed him a business plan, financial projections, market analysis. None of it was real. The money went into savings accounts you've been building for 3 years. And Grant, I turned to look at my husband, paid $15,000 to LB Consulting for business advisory services. Except LB Consulting doesn't exist as a registered business entity. That money funded your day-to-day expenses. Groceries, utilities, shopping, entertainment. He thought he was helping you build an empire. He was paying your bills. Lydia's face had gone from pale to flushed, anger replacing panic. You have no right to. To what? To investigate fraud? To contact other victims? To document a criminal enterprise? I held up my phone. I have every right. I'm a victim too, Lydia. You've been sleeping with my husband, taking his money and planning to move into my house. That gives me every right. Through the phone speaker I could hear Rebecca typing. Eliza, I'm adding something to the group chat. Evidence that just came through from one of the new victims, Helen Torres. My phone buzzed. I opened the group chat and saw a series of screenshots. Text messages between Lydia and Helen, dated over the past 4 months. Grant, you should see this, I said, turning my phone toward him. He took it with shaking hands, scrolling through the messages. I watched his face change as he read Lydia's words to another woman. I've finally found someone who understands me. A successful financial advisor who's ending his marriage. We're going to build something beautiful together. A wellness empire that combines his business expertise with my coaching. He's giving me everything, his house, his support, his future. I just need a little help getting established first. Grant's voice was barely a whisper. You told her I was giving you my house. Our house. Lydia corrected automatically, then seemed to realize her mistake. I mean the house you said we'd live in together. The house I never owned, Grant said, his voice hollow. The house that belongs to Eliza's family trust. You built your entire plan around something that was never mine to give. Marcus's voice came through the phone speaker, cold and analytical. That's the fatal flaw in her operation. She's been promising each of us a different future. Retirement together, business partnership, spiritual connection, financial empire. But she never verified the actual assets. She assumed based on lifestyle and appearance. Classic con artist mistake. Greed overcomes due diligence. Lydia's mask finally cracked completely. The carefully constructed wellness influencer persona shattered. And what emerged was something harder, more desperate. You have no idea what it's like, she said, her voice shaking with rage. To watch people like you live in houses like this, drive expensive cars, take vacations, spend money like it's nothing. I worked hard for everything. I built relationships, I provided value, You ran a con, Rebecca's voice cut through from the phone. You systematically targeted married professionals, identified their vulnerabilities, customized emotional manipulation for each person, and extracted money under false pretenses. That's not building relationships. That's fraud. Sarah's voice joined in. I believed you when you said you were struggling. I wanted to help. I gave you access to my business accounts because I thought we were partners. You betrayed that trust. Jennifer's clinical tone was devastating in its precision. The supplements you sold me contained undisclosed ingredients. I had them tested after reading Eliza's email. They're not just unlicensed, they're potentially dangerous. People could have been seriously harmed. Lydia's eyes darted between the phone, the door, Grant, and me. She was cornered and she knew it. This is entrapment, she said, grasping at anything. You coordinated this attack, you conspired against me. Victims coordinating a response isn't entrapment, Rebecca said. It's justice. And tomorrow morning when I walk into the State Attorney General's office, they're going to agree. Grant finally found his voice. How many? He asked Lydia. How many people have you done this to? Lydia's silence was answer enough. We've identified 7 confirmed victims in the past 3 years, Marcus said through the speaker. But based on the financial patterns I'm seeing, I suspect there are more. Probably dating back 5 or 6 years, possibly in other states before she established her operation in New Jersey. Grant set my phone down on the hall table and looked at Lydia like he was seeing her for the first time. I told you about my clients. I told you about my career. I talked about getting divorced, about building a future together. And you were working me the entire time. Grant, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. His voice was flat, empty of emotion. I was a target. That's all I ever was. Lydia made one last desperate attempt to control the narrative. Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I took money from people who could afford to give it. Yes, I told different stories to different people. But I provided value. I helped you get in shape, Grant. I gave Rebecca emotional support during her divorce cases. I helped Sarah think through business strategy. I provided Jennifer with wellness guidance. Marcus got financial advice. Everyone got something. We got lies, I said quietly. Carefully constructed lies designed to extract maximum value. You studied each person, figured out what they needed emotionally, and sold them a fantasy while taking their money. Rebecca's voice came through with finality. Lydia, I've been a divorce attorney for 15 years. I've seen every manipulation tactic, every justification, every rationalization. What you just said, claiming you provided value while admitting you ran a con, that's going to look very bad in court. I'd recommend you stop talking and contact a lawyer. The fight went out of Lydia all at once. Her shoulders slumped, her carefully maintained posture collapsing. She looked suddenly smaller, younger, less like the confident wellness influencer and more like someone who'd been caught doing something terrible. I need to leave, she said quietly. That's the first honest thing you've said tonight, I replied. She picked up her duffel bag and walked toward the door. Grant didn't try to stop her. Neither did I. At the doorway she paused and looked back. For what it's worth, I did care about you, Grant. At least a little. Grant's laugh was bitter, broken. You cared about my bank account. Get out of my sight. Lydia opened the door and stepped out into the night. The Range Rover, Sarah's Range Rover, started with a smooth purr. The headlights swept across our front windows as she backed out of the driveway. We stood in silence, watching the taillights disappear down our tree-lined street. Through the phone speaker, Rebecca spoke first. "That went better than I expected." She didn't deny anything. "That's going to make the legal proceedings much simpler." "She knew she was caught," Marcus said. "No point in denying documented evidence." Sarah's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Did you see her face when you told her about the house ownership? That was beautiful." "Justice usually is," Jennifer said quietly. I picked up my phone from the hall table. "Thank you everyone. For believing me, for coordinating so quickly, for being willing to come forward. This wouldn't have worked without all of you." "We should thank you," Rebecca said. "You connected the dots. You brought us together. You gave us the power to stop her." "What happens now?" Sarah asked. I looked at Grant, standing in our foyer surrounded by the wreckage of his carefully planned future. "Now we finish what we started. Rebecca files her complaints tomorrow. The rest of us provide documentation. And we let the legal system do what it's designed to do." "Agreed," Marcus said. "I'll have my financial documentation ready by morning." "Same," Jennifer confirmed. "I'll continue monitoring her social media in case she tries to delete evidence," Sarah added. We said our goodbyes and ended the call. I set my phone down and looked at Grant. 7 years, he said finally. 7 years of marriage. And it took you 8 weeks to destroy everything. "I didn't destroy anything, Grant. You did that yourself when you chose her over me. I just made sure there were consequences." He nodded slowly, seeming to age before my eyes. "What happens to us now?" I thought about the divorce papers he'd thrown at me on the front porch that afternoon. About the public humiliation he'd intended for me. About the house he'd tried to give away that was never his to offer. "Now," I said quietly, "you find somewhere else to sleep tonight. Because this house, my house, isn't your home anymore." Grant didn't move. He stood in the foyer staring at the space where Lydia had been standing moments before, like if he looked long enough she might reappear and explain that this was all some terrible misunderstanding. "Grant," I said quietly. "I meant what I said. You need to find somewhere else to sleep tonight." He turned to look at me, his face going through a series of expressions: anger, denial, desperation, and finally something that looked like acceptance. "Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You can go to a hotel, you can call a friend, you can sleep in your car for all I care. But you're not staying in this house tonight." "Eliza, please." "Please what? Please forgive you? Please pretend you didn't throw divorce papers at me on our front porch this afternoon? Please forget that you tried to evict me from my own house so your con artist girlfriend could move in." My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You humiliated me in front of our entire neighborhood. You made me a spectacle. You expected me to collapse in tears and beg for another chance. Well, here's your reality check, Grant. I'm not begging. I'm done." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Can I at least pack some clothes? You have 15 minutes. Take what you need for a few days. We'll figure out the rest through lawyers." Grant climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavy with defeat. I heard him moving around in our bedroom, drawers opening, closet doors sliding, the sound of a suitcase zipper. Through it all, my phone kept buzzing with updates from the group chat. Rebecca at 8:47 p.m. Just got confirmation from the state attorney general's office. They're opening a formal investigation first thing Monday morning. This is moving faster than I expected. Sarah at 8:52 p.m. Found Lydia's backup Instagram account under a slight name variation. She's been using it to recruit new targets. Screenshots captured and saved. This woman was planning to expand her operation. Jennifer at 9:03 p.m. FDA investigators want to interview all of us about the supplements. They're treating this as a public health concern. Apparently one of the ingredients she was using is banned in the US. Marcus at 9:15 p.m. Traced the Delaware shell companies back to a business consultant in Atlantic City. Lydia didn't create this structure herself. Someone taught her. I'm digging into the consultant now. This might be bigger than just her operation. I poured another glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table, watching the investigation expand in real time through my phone screen. What had started as my private discovery of my husband's affair had transformed into something much larger. A coordinated takedown of a criminal enterprise that had been operating for years. My mother called at 9:23 p.m. I answered immediately. How did it go? She asked without preamble. Lydia showed up 24 hours early with moving boxes. We confronted her with all 4 victims on speakerphone. She tried to deny it, then tried to justify it, then fell apart completely. She left about an hour ago. And Grant? Packing a suitcase upstairs. I told him to leave tonight. There was a pause on the line. How are you holding up? I looked around my kitchen. My kitchen in my house, that Grant had tried to give away to a woman who'd been using him for money. Honestly, I'm exhausted, but also relieved. Like I've been holding my breath for 8 weeks and can finally exhale. That's the adrenaline wearing off. The emotional processing will come later. Be prepared for that. I know. I took a sip of wine. Mom, thank you for teaching me to look for patterns, to document everything, to stay calm when emotions wanted to take over. None of this would have worked without those skills. You did the hard part, Eliza. I just gave you the tools. What you built with them, that was all you. Grant came downstairs carrying a large suitcase and a garment bag. He set them by the front door and stood there awkwardly, like he was waiting for permission to leave his own home. Mom, I need to go, I said. Grant's leaving. Call me tomorrow. We'll talk through next steps. I ended the call and looked at Grant. Is that everything you need? For now. He hesitated. Eliza, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but can we talk about the divorce? About how we handle this? We handle it through attorneys. Rebecca Winters gave me a referral to a colleague who specializes in divorce cases involving financial misconduct. I'm calling her Monday morning. Financial misconduct? You're going to claim you paid $15,000 to a fake business entity using marital funds to support your affair partner. That's textbook financial misconduct, Grant. Your attorney will explain the implications. His face crumpled. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. You chose Lydia over me. You chose to believe her lies over the reality of our marriage. You chose to humiliate me publicly instead of having an honest conversation. Those were your choices, Grant. Now you get to live with the consequences. He picked up his suitcase and garment bag. Where do we go from here? You go to wherever you're staying tonight. I stay here in my house. Our attorneys communicate about asset division and divorce terms. And we both try to salvage whatever pieces of our lives are still intact. Grant walked to the door, opened it, paused. For what it's worth, I am sorry. I was an idiot. I let myself get played because I wanted to believe someone saw something special in me. She did see something special in you, Grant. She saw a target with accessible funds and emotional vulnerabilities. That's what con artists do. They find people who want to be seen as special and they sell them that fantasy. He nodded slowly, stepped through the doorway and walked to his Mercedes. I watched him load his suitcase into the trunk, watched him sit in the driver's seat for a long moment before starting the engine, watched the taillights disappear down our street. Then I closed the door, locked it, and stood alone in my foyer. The house was quiet. No Grant on work calls in his office. No television sounds from the living room. No shower running upstairs. Just silence and the faint hum of the refrigerator and the ticking of the hallway clock. I walked through the rooms, turning on lights, reclaiming the space that had almost been taken from me. The living room where Grant and I used to watch movies. The kitchen where we'd had breakfast together for 7 years. The dining room where we'd hosted dinner parties. The home office where I'd spent 8 weeks building the case that would end our marriage. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. How are you doing? I typed back. Grant just left. House is empty. I'm okay. Her response came quickly. First night is always hard. Call if you need to talk. Any hour. Sarah sent a message to the group chat. Just checking on everyone. Tonight was intense. We all okay? Jennifer, dealing with it. My husband wants to know everything. Difficult conversation ahead. Marcus, my wife kicked me out. Staying at my brother's place. Can't say I blame her. Rebecca, sleeping in my guest room tonight. My husband needs space to process. We'll figure it out. 4 marriages damaged or destroyed. 7 victims total, probably more we hadn't identified yet. Years of lies and manipulation finally brought into the light. I sent a message to the group. Thank you all for your courage tonight. For being willing to come forward, to confront her, to demand accountability. We're all dealing with the fallout, but we stopped her. That matters. Rebecca, it matters enormously. We saved whoever she was targeting next. Sarah, and we have each other now. That's not nothing. Jennifer, agreed. We should plan to meet in person once the legal proceedings start. Present a unified front. Marcus, I'll coordinate schedules. We've become a team whether we planned to or not. I poured the rest of my wine down the sink, rinsed the glass and placed it in the dishwasher. Then I climbed the stairs to my bedroom. The bedroom that had been mine and Grant's but was now just mine. The room looked the same but felt different. The bed we'd shared. The dresser where his cologne bottles had sat until tonight. The closet where his clothes had hung next to mine. I changed into pajamas, washed my face, brushed my teeth. Normal nighttime routine in a life that had become anything but normal. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from my mother. Sleep well. Tomorrow starts the next chapter. I climbed into bed, turned off the light, and lay in the darkness listening to the house settle around me. Friday morning arrived with autumn sunlight streaming through my bedroom windows. I'd slept better than expected, exhaustion overriding emotional turmoil. My phone showed missed calls and text messages from before 7 a.m. The group chat had exploded overnight. Rebecca at 6:47 a.m. Just got off the phone with the prosecutor's office. They want to interview all of us Monday. Bring all documentation. Sarah at 6:52 a.m. My husband saw the news. Someone leaked the story to a local reporter. It's going to be public soon. Jennifer at 7:03 a.m. My pharmaceutical company is conducting an internal investigation. They want to know if I used company funds for personal matters. This is getting complicated. Marcus at 7:18 a.m. 3 of my investment clients called this morning. Word is spreading fast. My firm is in damage control mode. I checked the local news website. Sure enough, there it was. Local fitness instructor under investigation for multi-county fraud scheme. The article didn't name victims, but it laid out the basic structure of Lydia's operation. Multiple targets, fake business entities, unreported income, unlicensed pharmaceutical sales. My phone rang. Grant. I debated not answering, but curiosity won. What? Have you seen the news? His voice was panicked. It's everywhere. My managing partner called me at 6 this morning. They're putting me on administrative leave pending an internal review. That's not my problem, Grant. Eliza, please, can we at least coordinate our public statements? If we present a unified front. There is no unified front. You're a victim of a con artist and a perpetrator of financial infidelity. I'm a victim of both you and her. Those aren't the same position. But if the news connects us. When the news connects us, I'll tell the truth. My husband had an affair, misused marital funds, tried to evict me from my own house, and got played by a professional con artist. All of that is factually accurate. That's going to destroy what's left of my reputation. You destroyed your reputation yourself, Grant. I'm just not covering for you anymore. I ended the call and blocked his number. The consequences were spreading like wildfire through our community, and I was standing at the center of the flames I'd lit. The weekend passed in a strange blur of silence and phone calls. Saturday morning, Rebecca contacted me about coordinating our statements for the prosecutor's office. Sunday afternoon, my mother drove up from her house to sit with me in the kitchen and review everything that had happened. You handled it perfectly, she said, reviewing the documentation on my laptop. Every piece of evidence is clean, properly sourced, legally obtained. They can't challenge any of this. What about Grant? I asked. Will he face charges too? Mom shook her head. He's a victim, even if he's also a perpetrator in your marriage. The prosecutor will focus on Lydia. Grant will face consequences through the divorce proceedings and his career damage, but that's civil, not criminal. Monday morning arrived with the weight of finality. Rebecca filed the official divorce petition at 9 a.m., citing irreconcilable differences and financial misconduct. By noon, Grant's attorney had responded requesting mediation. By 3 p.m., we were sitting in a conference room at Rebecca's law firm with both attorneys and a neutral mediator. Grant looked terrible. His expensive suit hung differently on him like he'd lost weight. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hands shook slightly as he paged through the divorce petition. This is excessive, his attorney said, pointing to the asset division proposal. Mrs. Hartwell is requesting 3/4 of liquid assets, full ownership of the marital residence and— The marital residence was never marital property, Rebecca interrupted smoothly. It's owned by Hartwell Family Trust. Mr. Hartwell has no legal claim to it whatsoever. As for the liquid assets, we're prepared to demonstrate that Mr. Hartwell misused marital funds totaling $15,000 to support his affair partner's fraudulent operation. That constitutes financial infidelity under New Jersey law. Grant's attorney looked at him. Grant nodded slowly. I don't want to fight this. Mr. Hartwell, I'd advise you to. I don't want to fight, Grant repeated, his voice hollow. She's right. About all of it. I made terrible choices. I destroyed our marriage. I got played by a con artist. I don't have the energy or the moral standing to argue for a better settlement. The mediation took 2 hours. By the end, we had a preliminary agreement that would be formalized within the week. I got the house, 75% of our joint savings, my full retirement account, and an acknowledgement in the divorce decree that Grant's conduct had been the primary cause of marital dissolution. Grant got his 401k, 25% of the joint savings, and the remainder of his dignity if he could find it. We signed the preliminary agreement in silence. As we stood to leave, Grant looked at me across the conference table. I hope you find someone better, he said quietly. Someone who actually deserves you. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. The legal proceedings against Lydia moved faster than anyone expected. By late October, the state attorney general's office had built a comprehensive case incorporating testimony from 7 victims, financial records spanning 3 years, and evidence of systematic fraud across 4 counties. Lydia hired an attorney who tried to negotiate a plea deal. The prosecutor's office refused. They wanted this case to go to trial as a warning to others running similar operations. In November, Rebecca's law firm filed a class action civil suit on behalf of all identified victims. The lawsuit sought full restitution of all funds obtained through fraudulent means, plus damages for emotional distress and punitive damages to deter similar conduct. Marcus's financial investigation revealed that Lydia had been running variations of this con for 6 years, starting in Pennsylvania before moving to Connecticut and finally settling in New Jersey. The total amount of unreported income exceeded $400,000. The IRS filed separate charges for tax evasion. By December, Lydia's attorney was advising her to accept a plea agreement. She refused, apparently believing she could convince a jury that her victims had willingly given her money and that the relationships were genuine. Her trial was scheduled for March. Meanwhile, my life was rebuilding itself in unexpected ways. The divorce was finalized in early February, 4 months from the Thursday afternoon when Grant had thrown papers at me on the porch. The final decree awarded me everything Rebecca had negotiated, plus a clause prohibiting Grant from claiming any future interest in the house or my inheritance. My career had taken an interesting turn. Word had spread through legal circles about how I'd coordinated a multi-victim fraud investigation using public records research and strategic victim coordination. 3 law firms had contacted me about consulting on similar cases. A legal technology company wanted me to develop training materials for attorneys on recognizing and documenting financial fraud. I'd also started teaching that continuing education course I'd designed, Financial Fraud in Personal Relationships, Recognition, Documentation, and Legal Response. The first session had 23 attorneys enrolled. The second session had a waiting list. Rebecca, Sarah, Jennifer, Marcus, and I continued meeting monthly for dinner. What had started as a coordination group had evolved into genuine friendship. We'd been through something intense together, and that created bonds that normal social interactions couldn't match. At our February dinner, Sarah announced she was divorcing her husband. Not because of Lydia, she explained. Because the whole situation made me realize I'd been ignoring problems in my marriage for years. Sometimes it takes a crisis to see clearly. Jennifer shared that her husband had moved out but they were trying therapy. I'm not sure if we'll make it, she said honestly. But I need to know we tried everything before making a final decision. Marcus's marriage had survived, surprisingly. My wife said she'd already suspected I was having an affair, he told us. Finding out I was being conned instead of being unfaithful actually made it easier to forgive. We're in counseling, but we're committed to rebuilding. Rebecca's marriage was also in counseling, with cautious optimism about the outcome. My husband understands that I was vulnerable after handling so many difficult divorce cases, she said. Lydia targeted that vulnerability expertly. He's hurt, but he's willing to work through it. I was the only one whose marriage had completely ended. But I was also the only one who felt entirely at peace with that outcome. Grant had moved to a corporate apartment in Newark and was slowly rebuilding his client base. 3 clients had left him entirely. 5 had stayed, willing to give him another chance. He'd taken a salary cut to maintain his position at the firm, agreeing to additional oversight of his accounts and client interactions. He'd sent me an email in January, not a request to reconcile, just an acknowledgement of what he'd lost and an apology for the pain he'd caused. I'd read it once and then deleted it. Some apologies come too late to matter. In March, Lydia's trial began. All 7 victims testified over 3 days. The prosecution presented financial records, text messages, social media evidence, and testimony from the business consultant in Atlantic City who'd taught Lydia how to structure her operation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found her guilty on all counts: fraud, identity theft, tax evasion, and unlicensed pharmaceutical sales. Her sentencing was scheduled for April. She faced a minimum of 3 years in prison, potentially up to 7 depending on the judge's assessment of her conduct. The civil lawsuit was settled out of court when Lydia's attorney finally convinced her she would lose everything if it went to trial. She agreed to full restitution to all victims, payments that would continue for 20 years after her release from prison, garnished directly from any wages she earned. My mother came to visit the weekend after the verdict. We sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where this had all started, drinking coffee and talking about justice. "You did something important," she said. "Not just for yourself but for everyone she victimized. And for everyone she might have victimized in the future." "I just connected the dots," I said. "Anyone could have done it. But you did do it. That's what matters." I looked around my kitchen, my house, my space. Everything was quiet, peaceful. Mine. For months had felt like forever when I was living through it. Now, sitting here with my coffee and my mother's approval and my hard-won peace, it felt like the fastest transformation of my entire life. I'd gone from humiliated wife being publicly evicted to divorced woman rebuilding her life on her own terms. I'd coordinated a multi-victim investigation that brought down a criminal enterprise. I'd turned a moment of public shame into a masterclass in strategic justice. And I'd learned exactly what I was worth, which was significantly more than I'd been accepting. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. "Dinner next week? Sarah wants to celebrate the verdict." I typed back, "Absolutely. My house. I'll cook." As this was my house now. Fully, legally, completely mine. The house Grant had tried to give away. The house Lydia had tried to claim. The house that had been mine all along, even when I'd been too accommodating to insist on that truth. I opened my laptop and began planning the week ahead. Legal consultations on Tuesday and Thursday. Teaching my course on Wednesday evening. Dinner with my found family of fellow victims on Saturday night. A life rebuilt from wreckage. A career strengthened by crisis. Friendships forged in fire. The morning light filtered through my kitchen windows, warm and golden and exactly right. I took another sip of coffee and smiled. Justice had taken time, but it had perfect documentation and always collected every dollar owed. And I had learned to stand my ground, trust my instincts, and never again settle for less than I deserved. The house was quiet. The coffee was hot. The future was mine to design. And that was exactly how I liked it.